Welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Erik Rosenbladt, and we would totally love it if you would like and share this video and subscribe to the channel. That's what awesome people do.
And I'm Casey Rochford, and we write our own music, so stick around to the end of the show so you can hear a little bit of it, and then you can head over to iTunes or Amazon or Spotify, and you can hear the whole damn thing and get it for yourself. And so strap yourselves in, because we're going to do another lightning round.
Lightning round! I'll add a better sound effect for that. But for those that don't know, what lightning round is we take the main topics of conversation on our channel and we break them down, divvy them up amongst each other, and so most of them we don't know what the other is going to bring up for the particular subject, except for one at the end. We both know about that. So let's see, who should start?
Hey, why don't you take the lead? And
Well, okay, all right. Oh, and the last thing to mention, we only have 5 minutes to discuss whatever it is we're discussing, and
per topic.
Yeah. So time runs out, we move on to the next thing. So, all right. Well, let's see. If I'm first, I'm going to start.
This is the only time you'll get us to shut up on time.
Oh, man. So, let's see. I will go with politics. Okay. Timer's going at 5 minutes. Boom. Okay. Government is a huge monopoly.
Oh, geez. Like politically a monopoly, or like structurally? Yeah. Like I don't really see, like, we have a two-party system, but it all seems like the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. And well, what I mean, not necessarily like ideological differences, but as far as like function, what the government does, like so many things only are reserved for governmental functions, like courts and vehicle licensing and military and police and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I can see an argument for some of those things, like like you kind of want a consolidation of certain things so you don't end up like stepping on each other's toes, and there's things that really don't need like competition, like the military. Like you don't really need the military competing to be like, what would they be competing for exactly?
That would be interesting. Like, well, I guess in a way, I mean, if you look at like the Army and the Navy and the Air Force and the Marines and stuff, and the Coast Guard, I guess you could kind of say they're competing, but they're still under the same umbrella.
Don't forget the Space Force.
The Space Force. Oh man, yeah. That's kind of the point. Is like, the only certain activities are allotted to government functions. In some jurisdictions, like utilities and stuff like that too. And although there are competitors in other areas.
Yeah. And then, well, the big one I think is like regulation, like particularly like food and drug or whatever. That seems to be, everything is kind of funneled through there for safety reasons and stuff. And that totally makes sense to me. I don't really see a problem with that, because the kind of throughput that's required for that is too much, even for one entity that's that big. Like if you had a bunch of smaller pockets of entities, each doing things a little different, well, it's not really regulation anymore. There's not the same safety standards from, company to company that's handling this, safety regulation if it weren't a monopoly. So
Yeah, you're right. I guess the issue I see with it is if there's an error for whatever reason in logic or philosophy or something like that, then it's prevalent throughout, and also there's no room for new ideas to come in, or if they do, they come in really, really slowly. In a competitive market, you've got all kinds of upstarts, people coming up with new ideas all the time, and it's kind of good. And it could be argued that maybe that we might need that from a government standpoint. Like maybe a little bit of innovation is a good thing. Some new ideas, some new blood.
Well, yeah, I think that's the point of like having political parties, but we don't really have them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a host of different ideas that each get a kind of a chance at bringing those ideas to fruition.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're on politics. I mean, the whole like so-called third party thing. Like, I think those are the parties that actually deserve a little bit of time in the sun, I guess.
Yeah.
Because we've got the same old, the same like blue and red teams like duking it out constantly, and they're kind of they're really not innovating and not coming up with any new ideas and trying new ideas. That's really the important thing. Is the United States, or a lot of countries for that matter, are just experiments in politics and government. And this is an experiment, and we should be trying new things and forging different paths from time to time, and failing. I think it's okay to fail.
Yeah. I would love to see everybody in the country just kind of blanket say, you know what, I give up on the Democrats and Republicans, and everyone just only votes for third parties. Like,
hell yeah, I'm totally on board with that. It's a great idea. That'll force them to step up their game at least,
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, that's a great idea. Oh, time's up.
Time's up.
Okay, so I think it's on to you. And so let me know when you're ready and I'll start the timer.
All right. We may begin with science.
Yes. All right.
All right. So
let me have it.
So if you could clone yourself, would you?
Ooh. Well, that's an interesting idea. Now, let's be clear. There are some people out there that believe that when you clone yourself, that you're going to have the same brain, and the same memory,
or that you'll pop out fully grown.
Fully grown, exactly. Yeah, you're going to be an embryo and be grown in a lab for a while and stuff. Maybe I guess that's a little presumptuous. If I were to do that, that my genetics is superior. Like maybe I would like to prefer to let nature choose that for me. Survival of the fittest, that kind of thing. Like I haven't gone to the doctor in since I was a little kid, so maybe I'm doing maybe I've got something going on okay. And I eat like shit and am pretty thin, so maybe that would be maybe those genes should carry on.
But I seem to have a body that magically heals itself too. Like my voice was completely blown out for like 18 months, and then it just came back. And I was lactose intolerant for like a few years, and now I'm not again. And like it's weird.
It's the whole Scandinavian thing. Like,
yeah,
Vikings, conquerors.
Well, here's another ethical twist, though. What if you were told that you had a developmental problem that is like a late onset, in your 40s or 50s or something, that your heart is going to give out or something, and would you maybe clone yourself to wait like 18 years or something until there's like an adult heart that just matches yours like in every way possible, to extend your life by another 50 years or so?
Wait, so you're talking about cloning yourself to kill your clone to steal their heart?
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. No, I mean, that's terrible. That is an ethical dilemma for sure. I mean, the whole problem with clones I see too is like issues like DNA testing and stuff, where if there's two of you out there and one person commits a crime or something, like that can be an issue. And
If you kill your clone, is that suicide?
ooh, well,
Maybe,
that's a question for the next lightning round.
maybe that's why suicide's illegal.
But
Maybe
at
there's
least,
clones out there already.
at least suicide is painless. Oh yeah. I don't know. Like the whole cloning thing, like kind of bothers me, because I feel like that's exactly what killed the original banana. And it's maybe not a good idea to keep copying the same thing over and over again. I mean, you put something into a photocopier and copied it. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there would be some, minor differences that might be able to be teased apart in DNA tests. There's a thing called epigenetics that I'm not going to go into because we only have 5 minutes. But basically, that's kind of a unique imprint that is born out of experience, and has to do with
Yeah.
population.
Your DNA doesn't stay the same from birth to death, does it?
Well, I mean, like for the most part, yeah, but
Like 100%.
Yeah, there can be mutations. Like I got hit with so much radiation. I'm sure I've got tons of mutations in my DNA now,
Mm-hmm.
including the ones that gave me superpowers. So
Yes. All right. Oh
but
man.
I mean, I don't think I could have the heart to grow a sentient being just to harvest them.
No, and that kind of verges into slavery at that point.
Yeah, like it would be one thing if you could just grow that particular tissue, which I'm sure we could probably tease that out.
We're actually on the cusp of being able to 3D print organs and things like that.
I think some have successfully been done, actually.
Yeah, actually, like even a couple decades ago, it was able to be done. So that's not necessarily needed. You don't have to grow a whole human to take one organ out of them, their pituitary gland or something like that. What a waste. Oh man.
Throw the rest in the bin.
Well, that's time. Okay, that was a good one. So I guess it's my turn, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay, well, the category for now is the economy. All right, so if nobody has watched The Dark Crystal from the 80s, where have you been and why haven't you? But anyway, so okay, I got the timer set for 5 minutes. Here we go. House prices, should they go up or down?
Ooh, down.
Yeah, well, there's arguments to be made on both sides, really, because you look at house prices going up benefits people who have already bought a house because they can sell it for more money. But if they go up too high, then nobody can get in. Like me, I can't afford a house in Washington State. Hell no.
Oh yeah, no,
Prices are too high.
I've come to grips with the fact that I will probably never own a home, and I think I'm okay with that because I see a lot of pitfalls with it, but that's probably another topic.
Yeah, well, I mean, that is one thing too. If the price goes up, especially the assessed value of a property, your property taxes goes up too. In accordance, it's a percentage of the price. So there is that.
Yeah, but it's the trouble I have with it is it's not driven purely by supply and demand. It's actually mostly driven by appeal, curb appeal, views, like the how good the reputation of the neighborhood is and stuff. And when your neighbor moves, your property taxes go up for some stupid reason. So it's like they're just constantly making things harder and harder for the regular Joe to go and buy a house.
Yeah, exactly. People used to be able to buy a house with work a regular job and save up cash and buy a house. Cash. Imagine that. You just write a check and boom, you own a house.
Yeah.
You
So,
can't do
so I
that
mean,
these days.
yeah, I mean, like,
50-year mortgages. Jesus Christ.
yeah, I
uh,
mean, like if you bought a house and suddenly, the value tanked, which, could certainly happen considering all this coronavirus stuff. Um,
sure. We'll get into that.
like, that's called risk taking. That's what an investment is. So,
Yeah. And we could go into the idea. In fact, I probably should have said, buying a house is an investment or just a roof over your head. We'll get into that. I'll write it down. That'll be the next one.
yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point.
What's the argument for maybe the price should go up?
Well, it's funny too, because it sounds like when I hear people talking, economic scholars talking publicly, they tend to speak favorably about house prices going up. And I think, well, that's bad for anybody, kids or teenagers or something-year-olds like myself trying to buy a house. It that you're cutting off the lower rungs of the ladder for those people. But I think it's all about the older generation that already owns a house and they're looking to refinance or sell or something like that. Because that is the thing. If you buy something low and you sell it high, that's the way that's the way you make money.
Yeah. It kind of like, so, some other things, when it comes to things that like humans just need to survive, I get a little skeeved out by people trying to make like buku bucks off of it. Some profit, sure, like I totally understand that that's a necessity. Everyone's got to make their living somehow, but to make a living off of just being a property owner seems kind of lazy to me. I don't know.
Yeah, although
Just upkeep and shit, but
it's a business like anything else, and you're providing, actually, probably one could argue, the most valuable service, that is shelter. I rent, and I think, and actually the property manager and the owner are pretty cool people. Maybe that's not always the case, but I think it's a valuable service. Yeah, and like you said, the prices are set kind of not by the market, sort of, but not. There's these kind of ridiculous factors that people put in, like views and stuff like that. It's also set by assessors who assess the value of the house or the property. It's set by the industry, the house selling industry. As well too, they kind of push things. And
I have a question. How are assessors paid? Is it?
Well, that's time. How are assessors paid? I could ask my brother, because
okay.
he actually works for the King County assessor's office.
Hmm.
So that we'll go. Maybe I'll plug that in later or something like that.
All right, where are we now? Oh,
you
public health and safety. All right.
Ooh.
So,
okay, let me know when to start the timer.
All right, go ahead.
All right.
So, with all the recent things happening with the coronavirus, the issue of healthcare being provided for people who are facing issues related to COVID-19 have become kind of a hot topic. So my question is, do you think now, seeing the need for something like this, do you think healthcare for all makes sense?
Ooh.
Just a blanket healthcare for all, like somebody gets cancer, they get covered, because like, what's the difference between a cancer patient and a COVID patient? Like, does one deserve to die and the other doesn't?
That's a really good point. I mean, I guess there's arguments to be made on both sides. I think, with especially in the U.S., the way things currently are, they're extraordinarily expensive and unnecessarily so, for a number of reasons, which that's beyond the scope of a lightning round. But I think, given the fact that we're compelled to pay taxes, we just have an episode fairly recently about that. The money is extracted from us for various purposes, and I think it's legitimate to put it towards things that are valuable. Like, whether however you feel morally about being, having your labor taken from you for governmental purposes, extortion, theft, whatever you want to call it. It's I think as long as it's going to something good, I feel better about that. Like, I would much rather have the tax money that's taken from me go to healing the sick and providing some kind of health and safety benefit. I'd feel a lot better about that than I would about sending 19-year-old soldiers with machine guns over to a foreign country to kill people that they've never met before.
Oh, for sure. I find it funny that people bitch so much about taxes going to pay for healthcare, but they don't seem to be nearly as outraged as there being like a nationwide mandate to have car insurance. You know, that's money you're shelling out, probably more money actually than you're paying in taxes every month.
Yeah,
depending on your coverage.
Depending on the car that you have. Yeah, no, there's a difference, of course, in that if you exist, like, driving is a privilege. It's something you can optionally do. Being alive, you don't have a choice. Well, I guess you do. I mean, you could kill yourself, but,
yeah, but well, the thing is, like, with the car insurance, that's protecting you and you alone. Health insurance, that's not just about protecting you. And I think that's what this COVID-19 is hopefully showing people, is that it's not just your health. You have a responsibility for the health of others. That's what
I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, whether it's mandated or not, I think it's something that people should take to heart and really think about. I'm hoping that the outcome of all of this is that people will get into prepping more and stop laughing at it. But yeah, you're right. I kind of agree in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, sure, there's like plenty of ways to argue about how to go about doing it, but I think most people, especially once we like come out on the other side of this, I'm really hoping that empathy is something that grows in abundance.
Yeah. I completely agree on that. And one thing I've noticed too, just as an aside, is that people have been pretty cool, at least here. I've noticed everybody's taking it in stride and doing their part and, trying to be positive, and that's good. But
So
yeah,
far.
they should definitely, huh?
So far.
Yeah, so far. Well, yeah, when you're down to your last roll of toilet paper, things might be a bit different.
And I've only got a chess set that's missing 31 pieces. So.
A Red Dwarf reference. Oh, points for that. That's good. Nice. Oh, man.
But yeah, I mean, like,
that's. Well, did you have a final point?
No, it's all right.
Okay, all right.
I would have gone on a diatribe.
So that's time. I think it's my turn now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the category we have before us is religion. All right, I'm going to start the timer. Is or was God an alien?
Probably.
I mean, we've kind of alluded to our ideas on that in the past.
Yeah, there's an episode we need to do soon. I've been trying to get the surviving author of this book to come on the show, but I haven't got a response. But the Man and Machine, there's a very compelling little piece of research into ancient Jewish scripture that kind of talked about this highly advanced nuclear device that provided manna for the people out in the wilderness.
Yeah, it was not only food, but it was communication with God and various other things, and it required maintenance, and there were the way it's described is very technical. We're talking about text from the Zohar, and if you read it, certain parts of it, it's like, whoa, wow, that's totally talking about a machine, and that was written hundreds of years ago, long before electricity was known about, or radiation or anything like that. You also have the Mahabharata, the Indian text that talks about stuff like spaceships and energy weapons and nuclear explosions and stuff like that. That's really fascinating too.
Well, then there's that like kind of pseudo cult of people that, like, I think they're called Raelians or something, that think we're all clones of aliens, basically. And I think that, obviously stuff that came from thousands of years ago when we were not very technologically developed, or we didn't even really have the concept of science until like 1500 years ago or so.
And even that was pretty rough.
Yeah. We basically try to explain things with whatever story we can concoct to fill in the gaps, and it would totally make sense that if something came from the sky or whatever, it would be interpreted as a deity, when in fact it could just be something that lived and breathed and died 2,000 years ago, and that's why nobody's heard from it since, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of the things though, the fantastical stories, I mean, even if you look in the Bible, there's some weird stuff going on. And yeah, I think we're dealing with people who don't have the ability to explain things on a technical level, and don't understand what they're seeing, describing something like that. And it's possible. I have a theory in my head that maybe humankind may have been seeded on Earth by some spacefaring race a long time ago. I don't know how I feel. Like, I'm not 100% certain on that, obviously, but it is an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally possible. I don't know that it's as storybook as, like, beings that looked like us came along, because there's such a strong track record for evolution. But it's very possible that some beings visited this planet a long time ago and just left behind traces of microbes that are just part of their biota.
Yeah.
And that turned into what we are today.
That could totally be. Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
our entire ecosystem could be an alien, basically.
Sure. Well, and that's one of the things, like when we send probes to other planets, we're very careful to clean them so that we don't contaminate the ecosystem, or such as it is, on other planets, because we know about that. Like that could totally happen. And if people saw something weird and fantastical a long time ago, maybe that's the origin of all these stories. Maybe all religion stemmed from that.
Yeah. Some ancient alien visitor didn't wash their hands for 20 seconds, and here we are.
Oh, do I have to mess up my hair and look like that guy from Ancient Aliens? Oh my god. I do like that show, by the way, even though it's kind of bunk, but Oh, that's time. Okay. So we're on to you. Next topic.
Philosophy.
Philosophy. All right.
So
you know when to start.
All right. So what do you think happens to your consciousness when you die?
Ooh. Whew. Man. Well, I mean, that depends on, I guess, what you think a consciousness is. Like, I personally believe, to a certain extent, that we are more than the sum of our parts. That this 3-dimensional or 4-dimensional world that we inhabit um, extends further. That maybe there's a little bit more going on. I've had some experiences that make me think that. Um, so, if you're more than 3 dimensions, um, maybe your 4th dimensional being, and your consciousness is that being poking its way into the 3rd dimension. Um, and so when you die, you're just like unpoking, I guess. um, I so
I kind of think of it like this, like what happens to a radio wave when you switch off your radio? Like,
ooh,
does our entire consciousness depend on the fact that we have this vessel for facilitating its existence? Or, is
yeah.
it something like entirely separate from our physical bodies?
Hmm.
I mean, like no one really has that answer yet, and
No.
so that's why it's kind of fun to talk about, even as a couple of atheists or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, like what happens to the data in a program when you close it or terminate its operation? What happens when you turn the computer off? And
Yeah,
it
because
goes into this whole Tron thing. Like, I love the movie Tron, the 82 one and the new one. But it kind of explores this idea that what if these bits and bytes somehow have a sentience, and they're playing out all the video games in some sort of, in their own little world. Like, and that kind of like goes into the whole Matrix thing. Like, maybe this is all just a simulation or something like that.
yeah.
I think is possible, I guess, because again, we don't know. So
Yeah, it's just, like knowing a little bit about neurology and how, things that make up our consciousness, that make up our history books in our own consciousness, memories.
Mhm.
Those things are like, physically stored with like synapses and, certain patterns of firings that without that physical uh, mode of transportation for that information, I don't know that it could really be in a state of existence in the way that we understand it.
Well, yeah, and it's also interesting that like all those kinds of uh, neural connections and strings of proteins and stuff like that, as simple as they are, represent something very complex. Like, I can remember with perfect clarity every note and timbre of a particular song. I can play out in my head an event that's happened in the past and imagine something that's never happened before. Um, so that kind of like goes into that whole, I think we're more than the sum of our parts kind of thing. Um, but to say what happens when we die, uh, what is life? I guess that would be my answer. Would be another question. Um,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's certainly people that think that that piece of who you are just kind of becomes one with the universe. There's people that think it embodies a new person entirely, or a new life form, I should say. Like you could reincarnate as a bird or something. Um,
yeah, I
Theoretically.
think I think the reincarnation is kind of a beautiful concept. The idea that things are recycled and repurposed. Um, I kind of like that. I don't know if it's actually true.
Mathematically, I don't think it teases out exactly right, but it's a nice thought. You know,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
Just
mean,
like all the people that have ever existed don't really have enough vessels to choose from, I think. Yeah.
true. Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that. Oh, well, that's time, I guess. So
Not to shit on reincarnation there at the end.
Yeah. Man, we should uh, do a whole episode about that. Actually, that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. I think it's my turn or your turn. My turn. Yeah.
We should anytime we do a whole episode from one of these, we should call it Lightning Strikes Twice.
Good idea. Oh man. Okay, so I think it's me. Little too much beer. So we'll see how this plays out.
I'm on my second barley wine. So.
And this space dust is a little strong, but it's fun. Okay, anyway, I think it's my turn. So the category is tomfoolery, and so I will start the timer. Okay, season 7 of Red Dwarf actually kind of sucked.
Oof, I don't know. It kind of grew on me actually. Like
it did for me as well.
Yeah,
but in the beginning it was like, whoa, wow, this is like completely different. You know, Rob Grant left the show and they didn't do the sitcom style anymore. It wasn't the live audience kind of thing.
Yeah, the lack of the live audience without even a laugh track to take its place was a little weird. It was way different as far as like the effects just jumped like generations between season 6 and season 7. You know, all of a sudden it was like really well produced. It kind of lost that gritty texture to it. But once I got over that and like the recycled jokes, it actually had a lot of good stories in it.
It definitely did. I guess I do agree that there was some good stuff, and Kachansky was nice. But like as far as the writing and the story and the departure from the way it used to be, I mean, it had a completely different style of humor. It's almost like you can't even compare it to the original, the previous seasons. And
I mean, that was definitely a dividing line. Like all the Red Dwarf after that has been kind of like I described, you know, except they brought back live audiences and whatnot. But there's still callbacks to older jokes. Like you've got to see the whole series to kind of understand what the jokes are here and there. But they're done more intellectually now than they were. Like I feel like season 7 was kind of like a rush job. Like, oh geez, one of the writers left, but still want to put this out, so I'm just gonna pull a bunch of old jokes, you know. But
yeah.
But I think it grew into its own thing after that and became actually really true to the original.
Yeah, and you can say that even Red Dwarf seasons 1 and 2 were kind of lackluster in their own way, and it wasn't until 3 that they actually came into their own. And I would say that though I think that season 7 is not as good as it could have been, it yielded season 8, which built on all of the past creations and did a pretty good job.
You know what? I think I haven't seen season 8 in a long time because I lost the DVD, but I think I kind of like 7 better than 8 because 8 was it was kind of like the Deep Space Nine of the series for me. It was all in one place, you know. It was all in the prison, you know.
And that's a good point. Yeah, you're kind of they were sort of confined to this one space, and everything revolved. The whole story revolved around that.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was sort of free range and anything can happen. Yeah, I don't know that it was better that they had a bigger budget and had better effects and stuff like that. To me, it was a little bit endearing, the earlier episodes, that they didn't have a lot of money. Kind of like why I like the original Doctor Who. You know, it's done on a shoestring budget, and they have to
Yeah.
work with such small amount of resources.
Yeah, that's my main gripe with a lot of these like prequels and reboots and stuff that basically just go hog wild with all the cool technology, and it kind of loses a great deal of what made that particular entity what it is, you know. Um,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, if
Well,
somebody
and
were to like reboot the first season of Doctor Who and they didn't do it with a bunch of cardboard props, like it would be disappointing, right?
yeah, that's true. And I think, in fact, in those kinds of situations, having less resources makes you get more creative with how you tell a story or how you frame a shot or something like that. That it's kind of the whole like Minecraft kind of thing, like lo-fi, going back to the pixels and voxels and stuff like that, makes you get creative. And I think when the world is at your oh shit. Well, all right, that's time.
Wah, wah, wah.
So I think it's you now.
Yes.
All
Getting
right.
to the penultimate topic, conspiracy theories.
All right. Let me know when.
All right. So, do you think there have been viruses created as bioweapons?
Ooh, probably. Um, I mean, it seems like a pretty good weapon. You don't have to send soldiers in. You don't. You can disseminate it in some sneaky way. Um, I would imagine that would be a thing. Maybe not on a big scale because you couldn't do it through like a bomb or something like that. Um, but maybe. What What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thinking is unless your intent is to wipe out the entire species, I don't see how you can really control it to the particular region that you're trying to attack. It could even
That's
come back and bite you in the ass.
that's a really good point. That yeah,
I mean,
true.
like that's the same point I made with the chemtrail episode we did. Is like, why would the government put some kind of mind control thing in the air that they're breathing too? You know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure, though it probably hasn't been utilized in the real world. I'm sure it's been entertained by military brass and researchers in military weapons systems and stuff like that. I'm sure they would. They're that sounds like the holy grail of weapons. But
Yeah.
yeah, when you think about the way it works, yeah, it could totally come back to kill you as well.
Now, I mean, there have been accidental virus releases, and there have been constructed viruses and stuff like that. Um, and you know, I think a lot of that is mainly pretty benign, like trying to create antibodies for particular antigens or whatever. But um, you know, the argument could be made from a conspiracy theorist angle that these accidental releases weren't so accidental. But
Hmm.
you know, I mean, that's that's up to the discretion of each individual, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if you develop something and you also develop some kind of solution for it, like a treatment, um, then you could distribute it with impunity, um, knowing that you're the only one that can be healthy. But has that happened?
I mean, there's talk right now of the coronavirus being made by China or something, and I recently did a video debunking that. But you know, the same thing happened with HIV. There's pretty recent idea that Lyme disease was created by the government, and I think that was more of an accidental release as far as the theory goes. But
Hmm.
you know, there are some ideas lingering that, you know, the powers that be have created these powerful microbes that are going to do who knows what. You know?
Well, and I mean, they definitely do research into that. So I think it's plausible that something like that could happen. There's definitely stuff that's made in labs.
Yeah, I mean, like I could see the argument that the military would create things just to have them, just in case our enemy did the same thing, then we'd have it in the arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Like the thought is you anticipate an attack, a viral attack or some kind of biological attack, and develop those things and test them so that you could develop a solution for those, a treatment.
So
And if
now
it
that
got out, I mean,
yeah, but now that I think about it, that's not, I mean, in that situation, fighting fire with fire doesn't make as much sense as fighting fire with a nuclear bomb. Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, you sent a virus to kill us over several months? Well, I'm just going to push a button and you're going to be gone.
Mm-hmm. Well, and nukes also are another thing that doesn't just affect you.
Yeah.
You know, well, that's time. Okay. That was fun. So I think we're on to the last one.
Aw,
Uh,
already?
yeah, we got more.
Not even halfway through my last beer.
I got a whole book of things to talk about. So let's see. This is
the one we both know.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. We both know it, so we know what to expect. Well, at least as far as what the topic is.
Yeah.
Not as far as what we're going to talk about. So, all right. So, current events is what we're talking about right now. And I think everybody's going to know now what current events we're going to talk about. So, I'll start the timer. Retail shutdowns and layoffs.
Yeah, this is going to screw us over real bad. Now, yeah. We're recording this at the end of March, and who knows what it's going to be like when we air this, but already things are pretty bad. Like places are closing down, places you've experienced this already.
yeah, and you will probably too at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Again, more reason to be a prepper. God damn it. Just prepare, please.
Yeah, but I mean, it begs the question, like, you know, you can prep for X amount of months or whatever, but at some point, even the preppers are going to run out of shit. And, you know, like, what it's so weird that, you know, we've been so complacent as a species, thinking that we're invincible or something, you know, and then this virus comes along that we have no immunity for, and the entire world is crippled.
Yeah,
in a matter of months, you know.
That's true. I feel like there's going to be some far-reaching effects, much more than the disease itself.
Yeah, I mean, I see the entire economic landscape shifting. I don't think we're going to be the leading reserve economy in the world.
Probably not, and that actually might be a good thing.
Yeah,
but for the average person, long story. But anyway, I kind of predict that there's either going to be a huge depression or a giant economic boom once all this, you know, finishes.
yeah.
Depending on what decisions are made by everybody, all the players, not just the state, but the people. And
yeah, I mean, the boom socially would make sense, but it really all depends on how long it takes to get there. Because if you can't afford to go out and party when it's all over, you're not going to be able to, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like you had said earlier, you know, there's this whole complacency thing. People think, oh, it could never happen to me. You've grown up, you're 20, 30 years old or something like that, and life has been good your whole life. Well, no, it usually hasn't been historically. You know,
Yeah.
we've had wars and depressions and all kinds of awful shit happening all the time. And it's only in recent years that things have been pretty good. So nobody that, I mean, there's really old people maybe who have weathered the Great Depression or World War II or something like that, that might have remembered having to conserve resources and stuff like that. But most people haven't had that. You know, they're not ready for this kind of thing.
Yeah. The biggest thing I expect to see that will cripple our economy, probably ultimately, uh, is the fact that when this does begin to rebound, uh, things should be cheaper because people won't be able to afford as much, but people will be so hell-bent on recouping their losses that they'll be driving prices up and driving themselves out of business. And I'm predicting that will happen.
It totally could.
Yeah, businesses will keep closing even after this is all over because it's just not going to be the same from here on out. Sorry.
No,
Well,
it's totally not going to be the same. And businesses will close, but like the whole point about it, possibly being a boom, new opportunities emerge from destruction. And so, like we see currently, there's huge amounts of hiring for delivery services and things like that. And I see that being like the next big thing.
yeah.
Like being a delivery driver for a grocery store, like that could be a career.
Well, this is the time for those things to flex and unionize because people are starting to realize how essential they are to everyday life, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And again, like I'm sitting at home, I got nothing to do, so I can come up with some new ideas, and I might try to do that. Well, that's time.
Oh, dang.
Uh, well, I think that's it, isn't it?
That could certainly be a whole episode.
Oh, it totally could be. We might have to do that, actually.
Yeah.
We might follow up on a couple of these, actually.
Yeah.
Because there's some good stuff there. Man. Oh.
You know what? We could do a live stream and have people give us their feedback in like real time, like what they think about this whole situation, because everybody's got an opinion on this. This is affecting everyone.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm all for that. Like we should definitely try that.
We'll have to think of the logistics.
Mm-hmm. I mean, assuming like streaming services aren't bogged down with people working from home and the internet and stuff, like we'll have to play it by ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Man, this is a good one. I kind of feel like it was a little too short, but
yeah,
it's okay. We'll circle back and come back and address some of the loose ends.
Yeah, well, tell us in the comments what you want to see have lightning strike twice on, and maybe we'll make it happen, and maybe we'll do this live stream thing, and you can join the conversation.
That'd be awesome. All right, everybody, check out the music on the way out, and have a good night, and stay safe.